this adventure of our own spiritual evolution here. And if you've just logged on to www.cslwestlake.org, you can find out all kinds of other stuff about what we're doing here. But we are a center that welcomes everyone on their journey to their own spiritual magnificence and creating a world that works for everyone. So this morning, what I wanted to do is to let you know that the more I study and the more involved I become in my own evolution, the more I discover that how much there is to be revealed. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm truly after understanding who I am and where I'm going and what I'm becoming just as much as I'm interested in who this is right now. And so that means that I have to be willing to do the work that it takes to not only find out who that might be, but I have to be willing to decide if that's who I truly do want to be and if this is where I want to be going. And I think the only sure way to get anywhere is to stand our ground and to not back down, not until there is some realization that we can activate in our lives. So evolution means transforming this into that, whatever that is. See if I get this right. So often in our lives, we run into ourselves having backed ourselves into a corner in some area of our lives, the area that seems to have strong magnetic qualities to it, that keeps drawing us into these experiences like over and over and over again, like this big old world just keeps pushing us around, and we get drawn into those same experiences again and again. Maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe. How we approach a thing, an idea, an opportunity to live larger and experience and express more love, that's what I really want to talk about this morning. So the title of the talk is To Serve or Be Served. Yeah, that's it, right? So I remember years ago there was an episode on Twilight Zone. And the title of it was To Serve Man. And the aliens had come down on planet Earth, and they brought to society. The aliens brought all these techniques and these scientific advancements, right, to aid humanity in growing and prospering and becoming healthy. And so just like in our lives, I think this episode depicts people who are ready, willing, and able to be substanced and prospered by something outside of them. Aliens. Aliens. And in some of the scenes, you'd see people, right? They're all smiling, boarding these alien spacecrafts. They're smiling and cajoling as they're getting on these spacecrafts because they believe they're going to some unknown destination, some planet where they're going to live fully prospered and fully supported, whole, perfect, and complete. Like, in some unknown destination. Kind of reminds me of some of our concepts of God. Yet, in all good drama, there's one individual that just can't agree that something this good could be that true. A scientist. Most likely a religious scientist. Right? That just isn't convinced that the aliens are here for the good of humans. So in the episodes, the aliens, they have a manual, a book that they follow. The aliens have created this book. And it's what they're supposed to do to treat human beings before they board the spacecraft. Right? Well, this scientist, he meets great opposition because the appearance the aliens have created really looks good. It looks loving. It looks joyous and harmonious. It's satisfying to the majority of society. What we say in religious science is the collective human race. Yeah. You see, but in the episode with this manual, the aliens use this manual to kind of pump up the human beings and to get them fattened up before they get on the spacecraft, right? To serve man. Well, I tell you this story to bring our attention. Oh, how did that get in here? Oh, it must be one of those subliminal things like they used to do in the shows. But anyway, bidding ends today. So I tell... You like that? So I tell you this story to bring our attention to where we may have succumbed to an idea without doing any investigation first, right? So just because a thing looks a certain way doesn't necessarily mean it's that way. You think so? So being a metaphysician, I like to look to sacred text to base my promise of God on. In other words, somewhere where I know the universe is going to support me in this area of my life, right? And I get it, I'm a minister. I'm supposed to know that in every area of my life. I forget too, just like you. And I don't need you reminding me in line after the talk where I forgot. But, so because he's decoded this thing, we move into something where we have an interpretation of something that's going on. And so where our attention has been drawn to something where we may have succumbed to this idea without any investigation, what we really have to understand, it's all about perspective. Everything in life is about perspective. We all see things differently. So my promise of God this morning is the story of Martha and Mary at the anointing of Jesus at Bethany. Yeah, tie Twilight Zone to the Bible. So here in this story, this can be found in the book of John in chapter 12, beginning with verse 1. And this is the story. So then 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, who had been dead, whom he had raised from the dead. There they made him a supper, and Martha served. But Lazarus was one of those who sat at the table with him. And then Mary took a pound of very costly oil of spikenard and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the oil. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, who would betray him, said, "Why was this fragrant oil not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor?" Well, this he said not because he really cared about the poor, but because he was a thief and he had the purse and he used to take the money that was put in it. But Jesus said, "Let her alone. She's kept this for the day of my burial. For the poor you have with you always, but me you do not always have." So Charles Fillmore, the founder of the Unity branch of New Thought, says this about Martha and Mary. Martha was a servant to the practical aspects of life. She represents that part of us that looks for the evidence in our demonstration for the betterment of the fulfillment of our desires. While Mary's a servant to the devotional love aspects of our spiritual aspects of life. She represents that part of us that seeks to express love and to infuse all of our experiences in life with the feeling love blesses everyone and everything around us with. Martha is only interested in the demonstration. And Mary, on the other hand, she's always about the exalted idea. Notice that both women are present. Both aspects of the feminine are present. One of these two perspectives makes us free, and only one of them can be of service, while the other one is being in service too. And we know which one that is. It's freaking uncomfortable. It makes us nauseous. We know exactly which one because we don't feel free. You know what I mean? To serve or be served. Now, Judas in the story is that aspect of our lives that tempts us not to love, to deceive us into believing that there are oppositions to our desires. We can learn something from our Bible story. I think it's really important. There's a cost. There's a cost to the oil. There's a cost to our ideas. And the cost is built into the value by our perspective. So the cost of a thing is what gives it value, a perceived good. Now, just like for each of us, there's a cost to the ideas we receive, and the cost is built into the perspective that we hold to. Will we use this, whatever Spirit is giving us right now, will we use this to serve a greater purpose for our soul, or do we expect to be served by our ideas? You see, the soul, the creative medium, the law, it's devout and expectant. You know, I read somewhere else while I was researching for this talk that it said to wait upon the Lord. Wait, like to be served, or wait to serve. But either way, I think we put ideas, feelings, emotions, and unconscious thinking into the law. That part of us, the feminine, it believes in the so-called miraculous as a possibility. But the masculine, it sees the miraculous as already done. It sees it as already done, but it can't experience it unless it goes through a process. And that process is the coming of an idea. One that we selected from an unlimited resource of ideas. And it becomes our perspective. So what it comes down to is, do we massage and manage our idea? The one that's currently running our lives. Do we massage and manage that idea with faith, devotion, and a sincere intimacy? Can we see that this is what Mary reveals to us in the story? She poured the fragrant oil. She brought to her experience the best that she had, the best that any of the disciples even knew existed, because the story says they would have sold it already. So she shows us that there's always a reserve, something we can draw from to make our experience of entertaining our desires a very, very sweet experience. The Bible says fragrant. But it takes the best of what we have to give. That's what I get from this. And the best must be offered in service to, as well as in the service of, our desires. You know, it's treat and move your feet. I don't think we're to deny the flesh for the Spirit. But I do think that we should think of the Spirit first before we even begin to satisfy the flesh. Maybe by asking ourselves, each time we're engaging in the physical realities that we believe in, is this the highest expression of love I can express and experience? And in this, and you fill in the blank. You see, Martha saw only the use of the fragrant oil to yield substance to support the ministry. She was only interested in the demonstration. What will this add to? Everyone boarding the spacecraft were Marthas, seeking that greater fulfillment to be sourced in substance by something outside of them. Aliens! Aliens! Mary saw the fragrant oil as a way to acknowledge her love of the servant, the Christ, and that the gift that she gave was an intimate anointing of gratitude and love. She saved the best she had to offer to her desire. She brought the best she had to the party and offered it up lovingly and through an act of devotion to that desire. She didn't give in to the temptations of the world around her. She stood her ground for her desire. See, where do we stand our ground and not back down? Because we know there ain't no easy way out until we take action, until we not only bring the best of what we have, we also need to use it for what it was brought to light for. You see, Christ is that eternal idea within us that comes complete with everything necessary for our happy and successful evolution, as it holds to this universal idea of love. Christ, it becomes the body of our belief. So here's the teaching moment. And the coming of our Christ body into activity, Charles Fillmore says, is the result of an exalted idea sown in mind, the masculine, spirit as divine idea, and matured by the soul, feminine as law. We see this same pattern of the emergence of life from an idea into form through the natural procreation process throughout all of creation. This isn't anything new to any of us, but how we can apply it might be. See, each of our ideas comes out of that one infinite reservoir of the ideal, which is life eternal. It's perfect, whole, and complete with nothing lacking. But the substance which carries our ideas forward, that's the fertile soil of the feminine, as it recognizes or feels the divine impress, but only when we don't engage in our mortality. That part of us which doubts, disbelieves, and basically lies to us. So think about it. No desire stays with us forever. And Mary's desire in the physical form of Jesus reminds us, everyone who's present here this morning, that even he, our desire, won't be with us forever. See, the key is devotion to the inspiration that gave us the idea in the first place. And then we want to keep our attention on that intention to serve or be served. See, these two stories bespeak of transformation, an evolution of the process of the dismantling of our structure of knowing, and an emergence of something even greater than what we could ever even hold as perfect, whole, and complete. See, often we find ourselves being asked to surrender to an idea that we don't even believe in, but we're being asked to trust when deep down, inside, we know, oh, heck no, no. Everything in my head, it's like that new movie, Inside Out, right? No, don't do this, don't go there, stop. But I do it anyway. And then I find a verse in the Bible from the Apostle Paul that says, that which I would do, that I do not do. And that which I would not do, that's what I do. It's even in the Bible. So I think allowing us for this greater idea to emerge, a revelation of a higher order of love, to not just transform and have the experience of it, but to gift us and life and everyone around us with that beautiful feeling, where we release these hindrances in our structure of knowing, where we permit ourselves to finally relax and celebrate and enjoy life for a change. When's the last time you did that? When the world around us wasn't pressing against us and we felt free enough to be me, to be you. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, used to start all his radio shows with, there's a power for good in the universe, and you can use it. But there was more to it than that. It actually ended with, or you could choose to let it use you. But I think for a long time, it was just way too difficult for people to take that step. But today Today, I think we're more than willing to take that step. Today, we recognize that we don't have to be afraid of that power that's within us anymore. There isn't anything out there that's going to get us, that's going to hurt us. We don't have to have the paranoid syndrome or the conspiracy ideas. We can live free, unencumbered, just by altering our structure of knowing. You know, for years, I think what we do is we find a way to try to bring to you a way to understand that what we're really talking about is living in a world that is both visible and invisible. And we try to reconcile that in here, and it just doesn't work, because in here doesn't see the invisible until it makes a mental image. And you need that mental image because the feminine helps that grow. Without the soul, without love in our soul, it falls apart. When we allow that power to use us, this is what we mean when we say that we are being a transparency for the divine. Or way that we often say it here in Centers for Spiritual Living is we are here to be Spirit's greater expression of love, a vessel for that expression. Fillmore says in his Metaphysical Dictionary, the tendency is to concentrate on the understanding and to count its logic and cold reason as fulfillment of the law. But we, each of us in this room, learned by experience that the cold science of mind, the way we only manipulate the law for our greater good, the cold science of mind without the warmth of our heart is a very, very chilly doctrine. And he says it's our human sympathy that holds us to our material conditions even when we think we're free. See, the idea of the masculine and the feminine elements of God or spirit of life is really just how we describe to you how we're living between two worlds. We may believe or hold a notion that the I am and the thought that we put to it or to reference that is really referencing God or spirit, but it's not metaphysically. The I am is the thought container. It's the container for Christ being, which is our outward activity of each of our inner individual awarenesses of just our most basic unity. You see, I think that's where we'll find our lasting sense of peace, harmony, and wholeness amongst one another, not amongst the gods, and not amongst the ideas of good that gods often seem to act like they're going to provide to us. Where we're going to find our lasting sense of peace and joy is right here amongst one another. The I am, the omnipresent living force within each of us, it's our vitality that's infused in everything. The whole of everything is infused with vitality. It's the vitality of one life that's penetrating each of our physical bodies, our effectual experience of life. And whether we get on that spacecraft or whether we figure out that our desires don't last forever, we get to decide. What perspective will you entertain? Martha or Mary? Will you board the spacecraft or will you stand your ground to serve or be served? Thank you.